running apparel store. You're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who runs?
We didn't know if it was win or lose. We just saw an opportunity. I remember being at a track meet, sitting up in the bleachers way high up and placing orders for the soon-to-be store.
So what did you find that helped swing the door in the early years?
Our business wouldn't have made it if we didn't make the switch. We did not have a site for 3 to 4 weeks. What we did to get to where we are today is a marvel.
What was V1?
Oh, man. Yeah. It's embarrassing.
Guy, Debbie, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Why don't we start out? Where did you guys grow up? How did you meet? Take us up to the point where you're 24 and SLRC running company officially starts.
I was born in Utah County, but raised in Nevada.
Okay.
And I moved back to Ogden when I was a senior in high school and ran track at Weber High School. Ended up going to Weber State on a scholarship and ran and competed up there. And that's where I met Debbie.
What events did you run in?
I ran everything from 800 meters to 3,000 meters. Mostly the steeplechase was my main event. But I didn't mind the mile.
Okay.
Either. Yeah.
Nice.
And cross country.
Yeah.
Love it.
I grew up all over the country. Originally, I was a military brat. So I've lived on both coasts, Panama, all of that kind of thing, and came out here to run track and cross country as well at Weber State. So I knew that my mom and stepdad were going to come out west, and I wanted to be back out west. And so came out here to run, and we met on the team, and the rest is history, as they say.
Love it.
Yeah.
You guys are celebrating 30 years of Salt Lake Running Company this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any celebration planned?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat.
The marketing team will say there'll be a celebration.
Yeah.
The operational team will say, like, what? There's a birthday? I don't know anything about it.
That sounds about right. It checks out.
Yeah, so this summer, like in June, will be the focus month for that for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
So take us back to June 1995. What happened?
Well, it actually begins a little bit before that.
Okay.
I had a teammate on the team who was a business guy, and we used to talk about things, and we decided to take a crack at an opportunity in the marketplace. We didn't know if it was win or lose. We just saw an opportunity that we felt good about. And so we started planning the store in early 95. I remember being at a track meet up in Pocatello, Idaho, sitting up in the bleachers way high up and placing orders for the soon-to-be store. So we had a corporation that we filed, I think it was in April of that year, and we opened in July 1st area of 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I was teaching school, actually, while he was finishing up at Weber, and I was teaching and I was coaching, and I was newly pregnant.
Okay.
And so I remember in the spring, so we had secured the SBA loan, which was a miracle. It took 4 banks to get approved for a bank to be involved.
This is way back in the day.
Yeah. And so...
You're like a running apparel store. You're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, who runs? So it took us a while to get all that secured. And once by the time we got that secured, it was like March. And so, yeah, he was busy doing track things, and I was busy teaching and coaching up actually in the Huntsville Valley. And I remember going up and teaching and coaching, and then having to drive down to Salt Lake here, because Highland Drive, 3130 South was our first location. And we'd paint at night. And then the next day I'd wake up early, teach, coach, drive down, paint at night, and pregnant, and wondering why pregnancy was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just because there was a lot going on, and
that first time especially just slaps you in the face.
Yeah. So definitely had moments of being really tired, but and our first son was born the month after we opened. He was born at the end of August.
Okay.
And he's currently here as our director of finance.
Very cool.
Yeah.
30 years later.
30 years
so
later,
cool.
who knew?
That wasn't planned.
It was not planned.
Not planned nor orchestrated. And we're still not sure if it's going to work out yet. And I'm teasing.
He's great.
He's been great, and he shows interest, and he's done a great job.
Yeah.
That's great.
But our other 4 children went a different direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said June 1st was when you signed the lease, or when you actually opened doors?
We opened the doors in July.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So then baby comes in August.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just you guys and this friend from the track team?
Yeah, for a year we had a partner with us, and he had a full-time gig, as Debbie had a full-time gig, and and we were balancing the store back and forth. And it took a year, and our partner realized he had other opportunities, probably way better ones than it was clearly obvious that we had on our hands. And so we parted ways, and it was a great parting, no issues there. And he's a great guy. We're still connected. And then it was like me and Debbie was at home raising a family, and I was here working, and just started adjusting to the market, with the belief that we could do running and running only and make a living. And that was like something that was bucking a trend for whatever reason, and also advice that we'd been given that it just wasn't going to work out. But and I don't know that we were right, other than we were lucky that the market shifted for us in the time frame that we're going to discuss, and how the main street came to running, or the masses came to running, and then the rest is kind of history. It's a social norm now, instead of
you're not
like
crazy.
a fringe. You're not crazy.
Yeah, it's like that meme. I think it's Will Ferrell. He's like, this new thing, running.
Yeah.
Apparently, you just run.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys were, track. So my whole family's like a track and field family, and I know that the vibes of those people. 1995, the average person just doesn't really care about fitness. Like they're eating up the ads that are like, sugar is good for you, it's going to help your appetite, that kind of thing. Like, walk us through what the market was like, and would people just walk past your store and be like, really?
Yeah, one of the illustrations that we have is 1984 at the LA Games was the first women's Olympic marathon.
Wow.
I was in high school.
Wow.
And so that gives a really quick,
That does.
like honing in on what was going on.
Yeah.
Not a lot yet.
Yeah.
Not even the belief that women should be racing a marathon at the Olympic level. And so I grew up in the Title IX generation, which, and I grew up a very athletic girl playing with the boys. And so I was okay being different.
Yeah.
So it really didn't bother me, but it was pretty clear that not just as a society, we weren't there yet in that mindset of health and fitness. But even when you add women on top of that, it was another layer of, women were doing jazzercise.
Yeah.
At that point, like literally, or Jane Fonda, like that. Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff. And so there's some good stuff starting to happen at least, but not quite yet. And getting out and, running, especially not in the mountains, around here. And it was kind of awesome to be on that side of the eventual swell that ended up happening, because we've been able to witness it all in real time. And, as I mentioned before, like I had started coaching back in 1991, and I still do. So I've been able to have a lot of hands-on and being able to see, how the attitudes have shifted through all the different age groups, and just attitudes and people willing to give it a go, and that running and movement, it's not even just about running anymore, right? Like, walking, jogging, hiking, running, going to the gym, doing your strength work, doing your cross training, whatever. And we evolved even in our own mission statement to be a part of that movement. That's what we wanted to be, is just be a part of people's pursuit of those things. And it's been a while now, probably at least 15 years, where women have made up, the larger share of the people who come in to the shop. So
very cool.
From first women's Olympic marathon to more women than men doing it.
It's interesting. It reminds me of like food marketing nowadays. The food is like, hey, it's clean. We got the right ingredients. We got all this stuff. And to me, that's only been like the last 5-10 years that anybody's cared about that.
Yep.
But this wave kind of came maybe another 10, 20 years before that. So let's talk about the first year. Do you remember, like staring at the ceiling at night? Like, is this really going to work out? Like looking at the sales numbers, sweating.
Yeah. We may have not been smart enough to realize.
I was already the bookkeeper. I was already sweating.
Yeah. We were just going to work. It was like one person, opening the store, working the store, closing the store, doing all the buying, doing all the receiving. And then whatever the sales were whatever the sales were. And, after a year or so of doing that, and then our partner transitioned out, and then you're like, oh, okay, going into the slow season, you use the money in the bank. That's what the bank money's for, is to buy your partner out and make sure that he's cool with everything. And we did, and then we go into the October season, and will be our second October, and you realize there's no money in the bank. Mm-hmm. And then that's where you learn to become a businessman.
Okay.
Like there's no prospectus anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's no propositions anymore. There's literally like, how are we going to make the door swing tomorrow?
Yes.
And not only how are we going to get people into the store, how are we going to meet their needs that the customer has? How are we going to make those adjustments? So the next 5 years was literally like fine tuning our situation. And you could say like bordering on, bankruptcy and insanity, trying to make it work, and hiring the right people. And our mindset about that is totally different now than it used to be. And coming out of a competitive background, both Debbie and I out of a competitive background, but more me, looking like this is what the market needs. They need people who in the store who run fast and all these things. And the truth is like, that's exactly the opposite of what we need in the store. If our people are fast, that's nice, or a bonus, but we need amazing people that have great values and that are interested in other people's journey, not their own journey. And so I had to make that adjustment as a business owner, and that's what we've been doing ever since then. It's just evolving through the cycles, the ups and the downs, and then making the adjustments for the market that we're in. And we're connected to markets all over the country through business groups that we're in and relationships that we have. And Salt Lake's a different market than Chicago or New York or Atlanta or San Diego. So we have to make that adjustment as we go here for the customers that we serve. And our customers here are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What have you noticed is different about the Utah market?
We're slow. We're slower, not as slow as we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be like 2 years behind trends in Denver.
Like you run slow, or
no. We're always been fast.
Actually, we've
Utah
been
has never had a problem being competitive. We're always competitive. We're extremely competitive, and just look at the Olympic team.
Yeah.
Now we've always got that. There's something in the culture here about working hard. Mm-hmm. And focusing in on what needs to be done. Sure. Right back to Ed Eyestone and Doug Padilla and Paul Cummings, in the early and late the 80s, basically.
Yeah.
So that's a part of our culture, and people like that are coaching in high school and now coaching in college, and Ed's coaching at BYU. So that, right down to the high school kids, some of the best kids in the whole country are right here on the Wasatch Front. Yeah. So that's not enough to build a business on, though. That's what we discovered. So we had to branch out and talk to the normal guy who may walk in the door and say something like, my friends recommended that I come. They said that you do a good job of making some recommendations, but I'm not a runner. We ask a lot of questions, find out that they run like every morning at 5:30 for 30 or 45 minutes, never miss a day. And then we have like, you're not a runner and you do all this stuff, but they're not identifying that way. Yeah. So we make those adjustments, and the product that we carry needs to make those adjustments. And that's part of the business game, is adapting to those needs. Got it.
So who was the first hire that you made? And how many years in was it?
Probably in the first year, we hired a gentleman named Rob Christensen, who was a former teammate of mine. He was our number one employee, and he's a fantastic individual. And he did all the things that he's done in his life, including being a really fast 800-meter guy in high school, a really fast 800-meter guy, and a 1,500-meter guy in college, and is now a doctor practicing family medicine. He brought all of that stuff to the store. And he did an amazing job when I needed a break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was humble.
And he's humble.
So he could relate to anyone.
Okay.
Just a great guy.
And when you say you needed a break, like you were, how many hours was the store open? How many hours?
10 to 7, 6 days a week.
And that was just you?
We'd swap off in the first year with my business partner. And then after that, it was,
It's just you.
Yeah, and that's just not okay for the customer.
Yeah. Like crazy eyes. Like you walked in, and this whole time you're working what kind of job?
Well, at that point, by the time we opened, I had already delivered our oldest. And so I was just teaching adjunct up at Weber State, because just trying to generate some income, and then coaching, which really doesn't pay a whole lot. But so I was just doing what I kind of could, but still being, focusing as a stay-at-home mom. That was something that was has always been really important to us. And so I was really grateful that he was okay with that, and he wasn't worried that we were living lean for kind of a while because we just valued other things, and anything that, there was no extra, right? I mean, there's that period of years in a lot of small businesses where anything quote unquote extra is going right back into the business anyway.
Yeah.
And we were okay with that. We felt really good about it. And we were seeing the fruits of it. Obviously it was growing every year, and like, wow, this is working, and it's something that we are passionate about. And so just getting people out the door.
Yeah.
So it was a good combination.
So what did you find that helped swing the door in the early years, as you said?
Well, we made a decision. I don't know if it was a year or so in, and I do remember it was after our original partner left that we were going to go all running, which was something that we were told by everybody that we asked, as if it mattered, that it just wasn't going to work. But just for whatever reason, I don't know.
As opposed to like walking shoes,
we carried
well?
cross training shoes, light hiking shoes. So we were into brands and carrying product that was starting to stack. You buy stuff and it doesn't always sell. And so if you can't turn your product in retail, you're not a retailer.
Yeah.
We're not in the storage business.
Yeah.
So we made mistakes, and in the buying world, it's like, we hire buyers all the time. We've been doing that for 30 years, and I've never met a buyer that just didn't make mistakes constantly. That's part of the experimental process. But once you get dialed, then you can become like what Walmart does, which is sophisticated and unbelievably amazing, and how they transition and do all that stuff. So you begin to think a little bit more like, what would we do this if we wanted to be bigger? If we wanted to scale up, what would this look like? So you start to make habits in your buying process. You get technology on your side a little bit. And then about I think it was 1999, we decided we were going to change the name of the store. Yep. The original name of the store was Sporting Souls, and we're Sporting Souls Inc. And we decided that we were going to become Salt Lake Running Company. And that was a major shift for us, that we were going to go all in with the running. We were going to tell the world about it, not be ashamed about it, and just go down this road. And that was a big thing, a big deal for us.
It differentiated you enough to really start driving traffic. Like it turned heads, I assume.
It did. I hope it turned heads. I mean, it certainly changed the way we felt about the business. And the other thing we did is like there for a while, and it was in 1999 when we made those changes, like something inside of me was from a value point of view was saying like, this thing that the manufacturer has, this manufacturer suggested retail price, like I just felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. So we were discounting our product 5 or 10% like off the cuff. And after 4 years of doing that, we realized like all the profit that we didn't have was being given away in this original discount. So we made some pricing changes as a function of like we raised all of our prices right up to the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And we looked at people and told people, this is what it cost. And for me personally, like that was a big shift. And for the employees that we had, they didn't appreciate it. They were value conscious in that regard too. Yeah. So we became not only a retailer, but became a business retailer where it's like we're not hobby farming. Yeah. Like we need to make a living for our family and pay for the needs of our employees. There's no doubt about that. And there needs to be enough to do that. We're certainly not going to do whatever people think is going to happen. And the only way we're going to do it is to just charge this price. And was a big step for our business and shifted us economically. So that it was like, all right, this can work.
This is viable.
Yeah.
I think that's another Utah thing. Utah people love a deal.
Everybody loves a deal, and the truth, the bigger deals you get, the more they like you. Yeah. So we had some struggles with that situation. The fact of the matter is like every single employee that was with us while we made the transition in prices. We started with apparel and accessories, and then we went into footwear over the course of that 1999 year. Every single employee eventually left because of a disagreement. Wow. And it's like I'm the last guy to be like, I don't want a deal either. Yeah. But the deal is that we there's give and take. Yeah. And so the give and take was this is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. if you buy it and it doesn't work for whatever reason, we got your back. You come back to us and we fix your problem. And then we have the ability to solve a problem again that maybe we didn't get right the first time for whatever reason. So we had some room to wiggle that way, as opposed to like, once you buy a prize, it's yours to keep.
When you initially made the decision not to do the MSRP pricing, was it just like something playing in your head, like, oh, this, when you said it didn't feel right, what do you mean by that?
I think it was just a matter of my upbringing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The economic level, social level that my family grew up in, not having a lot, felt like it was the right thing to do. And the truth is, like, I don't know that I regret it, and I don't know if it wasn't or was the right thing to do. What I do know is that our business wouldn't have made it if we didn't make the switch.
Yeah.
And we can't serve people like for 30 years if we're not in business. Right. Yeah. We have to actually be in business to be an employer. Yeah. We have to be in business. And so that allowed us to find a way to have a viable, those were your words, sustainable business that had a potential future.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is, since the focus switched away from the discounted price, which nowadays we can't do anyway, like we're under contract with the footwear brands, like we have to advertise at that price, which is protecting everybody. It's great. But, and then the focus switches over to, so what do we offer? And what we really were best at offering was service, and the knowledge. And, like we still do the free, custom shoe fittings with the treadmill and the, now we have iPads and not TVs recording in slow-mo, but that quickly became the focus. I mean, we were always passionate about that, and he had a coaching minor. And so he still loved that portion of being able to help people.
Nice.
And so really it freed us to uniquely serve our community in a way that nobody else, really was doing and maybe wasn't interested in doing at the time either. And so that was a really crucial step into helping us become who we are. It's like, no, we're here to offer an amazing experience and to literally help support you and get you into the right gear. Or sometimes people will ask, other questions and, to start connecting to the people in their journey, and that's not, something that you get, really if you go to one of the big box stores, even if they sell, workout gear. So I think it really helped us start defining what we really were doing.
Yeah, your DNA started to come out. And what's really telling is the employees eventually having to leave because you had to level up. Otherwise, the business was going out of business. And these people, not that they're bad people, but they had come into the business under different circumstances, and that growth wasn't vibing with them anymore.
Yep.
How many years in was that?
It was in 1999.
Okay.
So during the name change, and when we realized, okay, this is where we want to go, and our pointers were set. We realized what are we missing here? We made that final tweak, and now we sell at manufacturer suggested retail price. And we look people in the eye and we say, like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And they say things like, is it worth it? It's like, worth every single penny.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem, we are here for you. You're not going to be stuck.
Okay, so you changed to a running only store. Are you like buying ads in the newspaper? Are you like standing on the street in a hot dog costume? Like what's advertising look like?
Yeah, the phone book was a big deal back then.
Okay.
We talked about women running in the Olympics in '84, and everything was done in the phone book. And we did all that stuff. We would go to the races, and we'd have little flyers printed out, and we'd put them on, people's cars or work with the race director.
Cool.
Yep. And then eventually we got into a little bit of radio, and then eventually a little bit of TV. We're talking 10 years in or so, and then one thing leads to another, and the internet's more important.
Yeah.
And everything starts to shift at that point. There are things that we do now that we didn't do at all, and there's things we used to do that are over.
Yeah.
It's not happening anymore.
So what did that next decade look like? Let's say 1999 to 2010. Were you like finally able to put food on the table from the business itself? And talk to me about the growth and the maturity of the company at that point.
Yeah. So things were starting to happened. The Olympics came in 2002. Was that a driver for us? Not necessarily, but I just remember that our main store, which was originally 1,250 square feet, was going through a remodel. So we remodeled once to 2,500 square feet. We remodeled a third time for 3,500 square feet. In 2006, we opened a store in Draper. And then in 2008, we purchased a store up on Foothill Drive. So by the time we get to 2010, we've got 3 locations going on that is evidence that there's a business that's viable, which is good for everybody that we service or work with, but also that we had customers giving us feedback. Like, Utah's expanding, you know what I mean? Growth is coming to Utah, and it's like, oh, it used to be okay to drive from Draper to come to Sugar House, and it's not anymore. Like, help us out. Or Foothills, the avenues, like, would people rather come down here or go to the avenues where they're going shopping at Dan's or something like that? So we began to broaden our footprint. Or Park City. So there's just evidence that there's more going on in Utah as a whole.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about the Olympics. I learned that Denver, they voted against the increased tax that would come because of the Olympics. And that's probably the only reason we got it in 2002, which is really cool. It's not necessarily like a running thing, but that, I don't know, it just seems like the start of Utah's growth period. And now we're at, Silicon Slopes, and we're, COVID and all the Californians and everyone coming in. Like, it's a real state now. It's a real metropolis, So do you guys still have those same 3 locations that you had at that point? You have 4 now.
Yeah, we had 4. We actually had 5.
Okay.
So we eventually relocated the Draper store. And then we acquired another company that had 2 stores in Sandy and Centerville. And we had those when we got the Sandy store up and running. We had some complications with the shopping center and a landlord and the things that they wanted to do that they actually wanted us to be involved with, and it just wasn't looking like it was going to be a good fit at the end of the day, monetarily wise. So we passed on it, and we consolidated. So we went from 5 down to 4, and that Sandy store covers the South Valley.
I see. Okay. A lot of business owners find when they open a new location that profitability goes down. It's kind of like, oh, we thought this was going to be just like our first location, but they find there was a little bit of founder magic. Like, I was there the whole time. Like, maybe it was just on the right street. It was right next to the right other companies or whatever. What challenges did you face as you opened more storefronts, and were you surprised by certain locations that did better than others?
Debbie can probably speak to this from the financial angle since she supervises our financials, but factually speaking, picking a location for a business is a science.
Yeah.
And the big boys do it really well, and they don't miss very often.
Wow.
We're different. You know what I mean? We have feelings and emotions, and you know what I mean? We hear a handful of people saying, I want a store in my neighborhood. And it's like, I've never met a neighborhood that didn't want a little running specialty store to know the owner and all that stuff. And so the Draper store our first Draper store was a good spot, but not a great spot. And when we moved, it was better. But the Sandy location's even better than that. And it's built around traffic. Yeah. There's a reason that Station Park in Farmington literally came out of nowhere. Somebody looked at a map and said, look at all this traffic. And if we did this, and you're like, wow, how'd they do that? It's like, they just know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think a good way to think about that, which is, a word that guys started using, I would say not long after 99 in a period of growth for us, which was franchise. We never intended necessarily on franchising, but that was a really pivotal moment, I feel like, in how we were running the business. We need to be able to have the ability to franchise so that when we have more than one location, the process is the process. It's about the process. It's about what we're here to do. It's not because the owner is or isn't in the shop, like you're referring to. And we know that works for some people. But when you do go to have multi-locations, it doesn't work anymore. And we also wanted to make sure that our customer base was attached to, our mission and our vision and not us as well. Again, what are we providing for you? We have an awesomely trained staff, which is, we've worked hard on for 25 years now. Yeah. And we wanted people to come because of everything they were receiving, not because he was or wasn't in the store or, almost 10 years ago when I came back full time, or me, and one of the things I appreciate is even out in the hallway right now, there's a bulletin board with, employees shouting out to one another like, hey, nice. Love so-and-so, or thanks for this. No one mentioned us. And I don't take offense. Yeah. And the reason why.
That's a freeing moment.
It is a freeing moment. They're holding each other.
Yeah.
We have really awesome, next generation management right now in place that's cultivating that as well. It's like we never wanted to be the face of Salt Lake Running Company. We wanted Salt Lake Running Company to be a brand.
Yeah.
And that's really what shifted that mindset as well. We want to be a brand and we want to be franchisable if that were ever a thing for us, which wasn't the point. But you get what I mean, just the scaling.
My thought is when the internet comes out, you're like, should we still be called Salt Lake Running Company? Like we could sell to anywhere in the world, right? So I think it's been a bold decision to stay there, but it also doesn't matter. Like if I live in Nebraska, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not ordering from Salt Lake Running Company. No way. Do you do a lot of sales outside of Utah, even with your name?
We do enough. I mean, and we're working on doing more. But this conversation about the name of our business is something that we've hashed out 1,000 times.
I'm sure.
And you think like I have a buddy who had a business called Marathon Sports. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who has a business called Playmakers. Another that has one called Gazelles. One's called Skinny Raven. Mm-hmm. All better names if you're going to think outside of your community.
Yeah.
And we've adopted SLRC, and it's not REI, REI is REI, but it's becoming a thing where people can kind of realize, first of all, we take running out of it in the sense that the local person comes by and says, like, I'm not a runner and I don't really belong in the store. And it's like, well, you're a person, so you're welcome.
I see.
So kind of not be so intimidating. We're super intimidating for so long. And then as far as the ability to go across the country, which is just people want product.
Yeah.
They want service, they want pricing, but at the end of the day, they have the dream, and it's this shoe and this size and this color. And the person who has that in our economy now has got a chance to make a sale. Obviously, it needs to be visible to them. And so our internet business is healthy, but it has plenty of room to grow. And it's been up and down because it takes a constant investment and a technology, we'll call it a technology stack, that somebody like us is not trained up to do.
Yeah.
So I think I could look back on my career and say, of all the things I've done right, the internet hasn't been one of them. And you would call it like it was a bold move to stay.
Yeah.
You might be like, I could call it maybe it was foolish at the same time. So.
I love the differentiation though. It's like going into the running thing and just being like, I don't care what anyone says. Like I like running. And sometimes your people find you because you're willing to make bold moves like that. But I like the acronym SLRC. I will exclusively refer to it as that from now on. It's a thing. We're making it a thing. I'm glad you brought up the internet thing because I am fascinated. Like you probably started at not a great time to adopt the internet. Like obviously you had something running, so it's like great, but you had all your systems pre-internet, and then it's like here's this brand new thing, and you're not sure if it's going to be big or not. How did you go about adopting those systems? Get the tech stack right? Like your website works beautifully. Like somebody clicks, they send it to, all the shipping works. Did that seem insurmountable at first? And how long did the process take you?
Actually, technically a third version right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a good thing we didn't have this conversation like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Because we were transitioning from our second iteration to our third iteration. Yeah. And I can tell you now that if you go to slrc.com, I'm very very proud of what you see. But I can also tell you that you won't see all the apparel and all the accessories that we sell. And that's our next step. But we launched our latest website in September of last year. And that actually began with a POS or a point of sale software upgrade that took place the October before.
Okay.
And when we changed our POS platform, we went from a legacy-based platform into something that, although it was the same company, had the API integration options for us.
Yeah.
And so we made that change knowing that like the website process that we were on, like it had a short runway. And the truth is the runway was even shorter than we thought. And they shut down. They're a Silicon Valley startup kind of thing, and they got bought and sold.
Yeah.
And they came in and said, "You've got 60 days, and we're going to transition out." It didn't
Abandonware.
last 60 days.
That's what they call it.
Abandonware. Yeah. And you're like, it's like surfing a big wave.
Yeah.
And you're riding this thing, and then it's so big that it's pulling back, and you see the reef.
Yeah.
And you realize it's going to close out on you, and it's going to be a really hard landing. And it was a hard landing. Our website was actually, we did not have a site for 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Until we spun up. But the truth is, I can tell you, like our team, we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And what we did to get to where we are today from September is a marvel.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
it looks beautiful. It's clean. It's integrated to our site. We had a meeting this morning where we're doing more sophistication with it, and we've got a lot of runway ahead of us now. And we're fully in control of everything. No third party where our hands are tied.
What was V1? What did it look like?
Oh, man. Yeah. It's embarrassing.
That's not embarrassing.
It's probably, yeah.
You don't have any
Yeah.
Silicon Valley tech guys working for
Yeah.
you. You're a small like mom and pop
Yeah.
shop, and you figured out how to send
if
stuff
you
on the
looked
internet.
at it now, it would look like cut and paste.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like just Control C, Control V.
And was it like you'd get an email, you're like, okay, I got to go to the back room, like put the label on it, that kind of thing?
You know, it'd be like the email would be like to order at saltlakerunning.co.com rather than order at slrc.com.
Oh my gosh.
Just having to like type all that out. Remember, we started in 95. It's like I got an email address for the first time. I graduated from college in 95 and I never had an email address.
Wow.
And I didn't have a cell phone. And you're like, that's 100 years ago. It's like, no, that was just like half my life ago. And I don't think I'm that old.
You're not. So you mentioned you went to 5 stores. Now you're back to 4. Was that like hey, this one's not profitable, or like we're happy at 4, we want to grow the internet side of things, or do you guys want to open more retail stores?
It was actually when the situation really came to light as far as what was happening down at the Draper location, and we needed to make a decision. It was one of those that was one of the most easy decisions I feel like we've actually made.
Mm-hmm.
Even with, a couple of our key managers, because we have a strategy team of 4 people, and Cade, our oldest, is part of it, and Eli White is the other one. And like, here's a situation we're in. I feel like we need to consolidate. I'm thinking about the numbers. I'm thinking about the inventory held at both locations, and they're only 3 miles down State Street from each other.
Got it.
And so I'm like, let's think about this. We ran it up the flagpole to be able to consolidate the inventory that we were holding, the staff, trying to schedule people, and just crossing our fingers like, hey, we're still close enough, right? And Sandy at 90th to be able to capture, enough of the South Valley people that we had before. We're going to be better off.
Yeah.
It was one of those, like, the room gets really quiet. I'm like, we good? I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, let's go. And literally 30 days later, we were gone.
Yeah. Data's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It just, sometimes it tells a story that makes you cry, but sometimes you're like, this is actually weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
We have a few sayings around here like the truth will set you free, but at first it will make you angry.
Yeah.
And the other one is if we have data, we should look at it. If we just have opinions, I'll take mine. And we had some data that really made it easier. And our younger staff was cool with like, hey, like the truth is like not every deal gets done.
Yeah.
And when you're in a small business mindset, frailties like things that you want, need, and desire must always happen or you can't be happy.
Yeah.
Right? When you scale up a little bit or you change your business mindset, you realize there's enough for everybody. And opportunities come and opportunities go. And you don't really want an opportunity that isn't a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you take risks or you subsidize a plan or an action or a strategy for a time, and you have some runway with that. And sometimes you say no, and then sometimes you cut bait.
Yeah.
And you stop those losses before they become something that's meaningful. And we had an opportunity with the Draper location that the ownership down there was a fantastic ownership group. And they wanted the same things we wanted, an amazing center. And where they were headed and how they were going to do it just didn't work for financially where our model of business needs to go.
Yeah.
And if you go down to the center where we were, they did it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that they did it because it's a bigger entrepreneur and more meaningful. They're pulling it off.
Yeah.
And they were clear and transparent and they were open.
Love that.
And there were no hard feelings. So they actually called and invited us, would you like to come back? It's like what I want isn't as meaningful as like what's the best thing for the future of our business.
Yeah.
So having a fifth location, we'll have a fifth location at some point.
Yeah.
But will it be at that coordinate? Probably not. It'll be at someplace else. Yeah. And we were thinking that when we made that move. We're thinking to the future. And our younger guys helped with that.
Yeah.
The split as far as online and retail, as far as numbers that you're comfortable sharing, like percentages and what your goals are in the future. Do you want to become more like less retail dependent, or are you really leaning into that more post-COVID?
We're leaning into the website being the center of our business in the sense that that's the need, want, and desire of the customer.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are days, and COVID helped people understand this more than maybe if we wouldn't have had COVID. There are times when it just, even if you live down the street, like being able to do something on the internet is still a better plan. And I remember when gas was like $4 a gallon. You know, when people are coming down to our store and like asking for something and we didn't have it, it's like, we should be like just giving these guys like $5. You know what I mean? Like they took a chance.
Yeah.
They came down to us to buy something simple, like maybe like their favorite piece of nutrition.
Yeah.
And we just literally sold it out because of the big event that just happened. It's like that guy got in his car and took a chance. And as inflationary pressures rise, people are less likely to take those chances as that pressure tightens around them. So the website and the ability for the local guy is just as important as the guy that lives across the country.
Yeah, so it's not even just about, making that purchase online. When I at least think about my own shopping habits and we think about, how people do their shopping now, you go to the internet first, right? Like 9 times out of 10, like
100%.
Yeah. So like, here's what I'm looking for. Oh, does my local shop have it? I love, SLRC. And we just have to have the ability to show what we have at the very minimum, because that's where they're looking. They have my size, they have my color. Because a lot of people still want to come down and get it in person, or come down and try it on. There's a lot of people not putting that item in the cart, but we know that the website's generating that kind of customer traffic, right?
Yeah.
Because they are like, oh, they have it. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go check it out. I'm super stoked.
This is a real business.
Yeah, for sure. Everything.
They're showing me a couple colorways.
Yeah.
And they're, like Debbie said, they're not putting it in the cart. They just want to know that they're not going to waste their time. And we don't want them to waste their time. That's not how we serve them best.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got a deal that's going to cost you some time and some money, and you're not going to get any. No, there's no ROI on this situation.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing that? And I'm like asking our team, like, why are we doing that to them?
Yeah.
So the website now and the accuracy of the website, just the ability to say, like, when you look at the website and you see what you see, it is not only showing, it's actually accurate, and it's updating and syncing on a regular interval or a live time basis is a sophisticated process that doesn't sound like a big deal if you're a younger
No,
person.
that's a chef's kiss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we did it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And
Yeah.
so we're really pressing in that regard. Where a single employee could look at the internet in that store they're in,
Yes.
rather than going to the POS, they could do it
Yes.
faster on the internet and say like, yes, 700 East has that model in 3 colors in that size, and Foothill has one too.
Wow.
So what do you want me to do with this?
Yeah. I'd love to talk about your team, both from a perspective of like, you mentioned the franchising, getting some systems in place. Like, what layers of leadership look like? What does the management team look like? But also, like working in retail isn't as prestigious as it used to be back in. I read, this is coming from a forum I read on the internet. It was like, which profession used to be like really respectable and now it's not as respectable. And my favorite answer was court jester. But the second one was retail. Like, it used to be like this, you could support a family working retail, right? How do you keep the team members and what does the team look like?
Well, I'll let Debbie answer a lot of that because she's been involved with our organization chart and the plans that we've made to do exactly just that. Since we transitioned the group of people that were with us for 15 years that created Salt Lake Running Company, and they went off to do bigger and better things, and they are doing that. It's like we recognize really quickly that like we're in the unglamorous business of selling sneakers. And we are in the retail business, factually speaking, but we don't see it that way. And I don't talk to our people that way. We're in the service industry.
Yeah.
And when people come in our door, most of the time, what they're asking about because of the internet nowadays is literally a commodity, and they're not here necessarily for that particular thing. And if they are, like, we're very grateful for them. They need something out of us, and our people bring that to the table, and the ability to provide solutions and deliver on that and guarantee that if there's a problem, we have their back.
Okay.
Yeah. But as far as the team goes, Debbie's in the know as much as anybody on that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, we definitely went through a phase after we lost basically our first group of key people. By 2015, I think we only had one left, who then left in 2016. And these are the people who've been with us through that whole growing phase, helped us move into this location from off of Highland Drive. And it's really a big reason why he came to me as our last few kids were seniors and said, hey, I need you, back doing some things. And I'm like, okay, I'm here. And we knew we had to rebuild because this is, he's been doing this obviously full time for 30 years. And now I'm going on 10 almost. And we're like everybody else. We want to retire at some point. Right.
Yeah.
And even though we still love it and have a vision and a passion for everything that we do here, we knew that the best thing for us was to cultivate and find the new management group
100%.
that would actually lead us into that next phase, right? And so in earnest, we just really started looking for specific kinds of people.
And this is kind of like hopefully for the last time kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
pretty much that they're young enough and have that same vision. And the nice thing that was happening all at the same time was, because this really started happening in earnest starting in about 2018, 2019, when we actually changed our logo and we rebranded, like we have a brand guide. We came up with our current mission statement. We have core values, like, because he and I were like, who are we and where are we going?
Yeah.
Because we got to know that, because the new team has got to be these people that embrace it and then perpetuate it, moving forward, and they're happy to do it. Because nowadays in almost any business, your key people, really all your people, but especially your key people, are in it for more than just the job. They want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And we had already felt like we were part of something awesome. And so we just needed to really give it more detail and more structure so that we could describe it and train it and find it, obviously. And then, like I said, so that it was reproducible in our own company and then in our community. And so I think what we were going through laid the foundation of, now that we know where we're going, now we can find our people, or
Yeah.
we'll be able to identify them when they show up. You know, the unglamorous side of what we do isn't just that we sell sneakers maybe, but it's we're a small business.
Yeah.
You know, and I would always say, you know, we're not venture capitalist funded. We can't just bring in somebody for X amount of a salary. Like that's not how small business works. And so you kind of have to find your people and groom them and bring them up in it.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of our, you know, friends across the country who do this say kind of the same thing. Like it's pretty tough in the run industry to hire from the outside. You kind of have to cultivate the people that you have who show the interest, and you encourage them and give them opportunities. So you're running them up the flagpole. And so really it's been more of, even though we've been very mindful, it's been like a blessing to have the right people show up.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you shine the light, they sense it and they start coming.
Yeah.
And we had some key people, you know, show up in the business that were ready to rock. And we're like, awesome. And they trained up fast into what they do. And as I mentioned, like one of the pieces is we have our strategy team, which is him and I, and then Kate and Eli, which are our next two key executives in training right now. And they're the ones that will replace us. And then they're each over their own channel. And so that's how we decided to divide the business. Is his channel, which he's always done, is operations and sales. So that's what Eli is training in right now. So he's our director of sales and ops. And Cade is our director of finance. So he's over finance, buying, and then we put the marketing over there because we didn't know where to put it. And that's what I've been doing. So my channel's been finance, buying, marketing.
Okay.
Partly because when I was buying apparel, because that's one of the things I was doing when he brought me back in, I was like, we got to sell this apparel. And our current marketing person took another job with she had a great opportunity. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll do that too. Again, a lot of hats, and you gotta, it's not big money. And when you're in a small business, you have to be willing to be flexible and be willing to do a lot of different things. Even as an executive position, quote unquote, it's not the same as an executive position in, a national or a global company, right?
Yeah.
Because you have, again, in our case, more than one channel that you supervise, and you're still doing some chop wood, carry water tasks too, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the nature of that, but we're grateful that, that they've done a lot of development. And then underneath them, they each have a key person. Like our sales department manager, and then our Daniel who actually does the website and a lot of buying. And so we're just really fortunate because amongst all these people, there's multiple master's degrees. They're very educated. They've chosen this. They were doing other things. They had other opportunities.
Yeah.
But because of what we were able to offer in the culture and the vision and the opportunity to grow for them personally, they were like, yeah, this would be cool. And they're obviously also passionate about their own movement and running and, and active lifestyle, or they wouldn't be here anyway. So they really fit the bill. But we keep it simple. We have to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So really it's just our two executives in training, and then they have, right-hand helpers basically. And then we have a bunch of really awesome support in every channel. Like
Very
right now,
cool.
I'm like, thinking constantly, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because, when you lose somebody, it's hard to replace,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but we're very fortunate right now.
I love it.
It's interesting. I know that we can't do this all day long, but it's interesting that I think the most common trait of somebody that works at Salt Lake Running Company is that they align with the core values of being positive, being hardworking, being connected. But this is where they want to be. This is what they want to do.
Yeah.
And when you single that out, and that you realize that they have that want inside of them to do something, and they're willing to receive and accept feedback, you can go a long ways internally. All our promotions are coming out of inside hires.
Very cool.
it's just the way that we go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It makes a big
You
difference.
planted your flag initially, then you planted your flag again, maybe 2018, 2019,
Yep.
internally, like, hey, this is what we stand for, which every small business has to go through that maturity at some point where they're like, hey, we're actually making some money here. Like, is this going to die or is it going to live? And the core values really drive that.
Well, and it's answering the question, back at that point, we'd been around going on 25 years, and this was a real conversation. How are we going to be here in another 25 years?
Yeah.
What are we going to have to do? What do we look like to move forward? And again, these are people who want to move forward, and we happen to be in a really awesome industry.
Yeah.
Like the brands we get to work with, the people, Adam, our customers. It's positive. It's fun. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
So just the environment's really good too.
We're almost out of time here, but I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on what is the one piece of advice you'd give to another founder trying to grow something, a legacy brand like yours in Utah.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it would start with, I think it would start with determine what you need, want, and desire out of your life, and where your skill set aligns. And when you have to choose between like a passion situation and a skill set situation, the skill set can almost always be acquired. Either you can learn it yourself or you can hire it out and get somebody like I've done with lots of people, and Debbie by my side. I mean, she's brought a piece of this business that was not my strength. And as your business grows, every entrepreneur or every small business owner has to say something inside of themselves. Like, you have that trite old saying. It's like, well, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. It's like, well, that's awesome. I can just tell you, you're never going to create anything of real value if you that's your mantra. It's like, if you want something awesome, put an amazing team around you and empower them, and get out of their way as fast as you can. Yeah. And that's where we're at. Like, that 25 years from now, I won't be driving this business. Like, somebody else will be doing this, and somebody else will have preceded them. And so we just have to get out of people's way so that they can build something that will adapt to the new whatever, the next 25 years of our society, of our community, of sophistication and evolution of technology and that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I think my piece of advice, because I'm a financial person, from the beginning is, obviously be passionate about it, but you need to make money at it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, part of the job there, if you want a business that's going to be a legacy business, it has to be sustainable. And so you can have a lot of great ideas, but if you can't afford them, then you're going to have to reevaluate. And that is part of the power, I feel like, of processes as well, because if you can establish the process that is repeatable, that is getting you the net profit that you need to survive, then that's the right process, more than likely, or at least along the right track. Because we do see people who have a lot of really great stuff going for them, except for, making it work on the balance sheet and the P&L.
Yeah.
So you always have to be mindful of, how can this be sustainable?
Yeah.
Or it won't ever be legacy.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
If you're looking for some awesome running shoes or apparel, or just, for normal people that aren't runners,
we love
SLRC.
If you're moving, standing, walking, we have stuff. Breathing.
If you have a pulse and you need shoes, come down to SLRC. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
this is great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of UtahPreneur. Before you go, 3 quick things. Number 1, join our community. We just started out on Facebook. The link is going to be below. It's going to have everybody that listens to this podcast in it, other entrepreneurs. Everybody's helping each other out there. Go join. Secondly, if you like this podcast, share it with a friend. That's all I ask. Thank you. And for the life of you, do not miss last week's episode with the owner of FatCats and Costa Vida, Sean Collins. This guy at one point had 86 LLCs registered to his name. He's a serial entrepreneur. He has a lot of information on what it takes to really make it. His businesses do over $260 million a year. So he's got some gems. Check it out. We'll see you there, and we'll see you next week.